My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. So today we have something a bit different. We have the Timefactors Baby Dreadnought PRS-52. This is a smaller version of the PRS-2 Dreadnought originally released in 2003. The original watch was designed with feedback from a forum and was named after a nuclear submarine. All quite intriguing. Now, I know the words tool watch get thrown around often, but I'm going to go ahead and take the liberty of saying today we are reviewing a true tool watch. Now, before we get into the review, I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you're enjoying the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So price and availability. Well, ordering this watch is a bit tricky as the Timefactors store only takes orders periodically. However, if you sign up for an email reminder, you will be notified when orders can be placed. The MSRP on this watch is $470. So for the case, we have 38mm in diameter, 46mm lug to lug. It's 13mm thick and has an 18mm lug width opening. Now sized up for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, it weighs in at 145 grams. Now this case is completely bead blasted, giving it a very unique finish that is reminiscent of titanium. The metal here is in fact though 316L stainless steel. The lugs angle down sharply, and this in combination with crown guards that completely engulf the crown give a very unique look to this watch overall. The lugs are also drilled for easy strap changes. I really like the overall look of this watch with this bead blasting, and I've discovered one other benefit of it while filming this watch is that there's no visible smudge marks. The stock bracelet runs 18mm from the solid end link to the clasp. There's virtually no play between the end link and the head of the watch. The articulation against the back of the watch and between the links is excellent, two factors that result in a very comfortable bracelet. The finishing on the bracelet and clasp matches the rest of the watch perfectly. Speaking of the clasp, it is a style commonly used by microbrands with a safety catch, twin trigger deployment, and a milled scissor. It's signed Dreadnought and has 6 micro positions. This in combination with the smaller links should mean that it will be very easy to get the right fit. Finally, sizing is accomplished with screw links. You will just need a 1mm screwdriver. I feel like a big part of this watch's look overall is the fact that they included this bracelet with this same bead blasted finish. The screw in caseback helps provide 300 meters of water resistance. There is also an iron plate inside the case that provides 20,000 amperes of magnetic resistance. I'm not 100% sure what this logo on the back represents, but if you do know, let me know in the comments below. This watch is powered by the Miyota 9015, which I much prefer to the NH35 you usually find in microbrands. This is a 28,800 vibration per hour, hacking, hand-winding movement with a 42-hour power reserve and a stated accuracy of -10 to +30 seconds a day. It also features a quick set date. Now you do get some rotor noise from this movement as the rotor only winds in one direction and it can backspin, but that doesn't tend to bother me. The 7mm screw-down crown is completely engulfed in the crown guards of the case. However, due to its size and nice knurling, it's actually not difficult to operate the watch with this crown, despite this. The crown is also signed with a D, for which I presume is Dreadnought, and the threading and unthreading action is very smooth. As you might expect, the finishing on the crown matches the finishing everywhere else on this watch. The crystal is a double-domed sapphire with anti-reflective coating on the underside. There's a very slight faceted edge that is just proud of the bezel, which tends to catch a little bit of light and add some visual interest. And then the AR coating helps this watch maintain a high degree of legibility. The 120-click unidirectional bezel lacks any insert and has the same bead blasted finishing as the rest of the watch. The edge is easy to grip and the action is tactile and tight. There's a loomed triangle at 12 and then Arabic numerals for each of the 5-minute positions with dashes for the rest. The lack of a bezel insert and this bead blasting finish gives this watch a very distinct look that I really like. Also, everything lines up nicely at 12. There's actually a lot going on the dial, but it remains super legible. At the very edge, we have Arabic numerals that mark each of the 5-minute increments. And then moving in from there, we have a large Lume orange marker at 12, with dashes for each of the minutes and thicker dashes for each of the hours. Moving in one more time towards the center, we have Lume dashes for 12, 3, 6, and 9, with Lume circles for the rest of the hour positions. Now all this is set against a matte black dial. Dreadnought is at 12, and Great Britain flanks the 6 o'clock position. And that's the only text on the dial, keeping the design very clean and legible. Finally, the date is nicely placed at 6 with a borderless window. The date wheel actually matches the dial, and this date position not only maintains the symmetry of the dial, but it also blends in really well that you almost don't notice the date unless you look for it. So one of my favorite parts of this watch is the oversized minute hand. It's massive and edged in orange, and it seems to just jump off the dial and makes reading the time a snap. The hour hand is almost minuscule in comparison. The second hand is what my wife refers to as a marshmallow on a stick style, but with the hand the same matte black as the dial, it often blends in and it just looks like the loomed marshmallow is floating around the edge of the dial. Now the minute hand is plenty long and reaches all the way to the dashes of the minutes, and the hour hand just touches the loomed hour indices. Finally, all three hands are nicely loomed. And here is the Lume against a Seiko. You can see it holds its own quite well. The orange plot will fade because orange Lume just isn't as strong, but it's a cool detail. On the Timegrapher with the dial up, we're getting about plus 5 seconds a day, healthy amplitude, and minimal beat error. And then with the crown down, plus 3 seconds a day, a little bit lower amplitude as the balance wheel fights gravity, and the same beat error. So solid performance out of this Miyota 9015. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. If you do have a small wrist size, this is a great set of dimensions on the watch. It also wears quite snug and comfortable against the wrist. You do see it's a bit tall here, but I feel like the bezel does break up some of that height. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. Well, first off, this is an extremely unique watch with some serious tool specifications, including magnetic resistance. Secondly, the dial is ultra legible. Third, I love the look of the bead blasted finish. And finally, the bracelet included is super comfortable, and I love that they matched the finishing of the case to the bracelet. I only have a few cons for this watch. It's 13 millimeters thick, which is understandable as it has 300 meters of water resistance and an iron plate to provide that magnetic resistance, but on a 38 millimeter case, it does appear a bit tall. Second, the end link pairs up a bit weird to the head of the watch. I kind of want to see the angle of the lugs preserved across the end link perhaps. Now, it's going to be difficult to recommend comparables to such a unique watch like this. I've heard a number of people saying that it has major Sin vibes, and while I agree this is true, this watch is 1/3 of the price of a Sin on Bracelet. With the orange hand, it slightly reminds me of a Squale, which is a bit closer in price. And then finally, I think it might even have a little bit of Doxa energy as well, but again, that is also a much more expensive watch. I think this baby Dreadnought is a true gem and kind of sits in a unique position in the watch universe. I picked this watch up assuming I would just review and flip it, but I think it may have earned a spot in my more permanent collection. So there you have it, the Timefactors Baby Dreadnought PRS-52. What do you think about this watch? Let me know in the comments below. And then as always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.